Welcome to TV, Tennessee Valley Church. Today we're in the wonderful studios of Way 31 in Huntsville. In this very studio, Way 31's meteorologists monitor signs of impending storms. They track them and provide a critical service to North Alabama by warning us when we should take cover. They break into our programs to say, take a look at the radar, you might be in danger. Today, I want to talk about storms, life storms, winds of change, economic turbulence, emotional tempests, spiritual disturbances, life storms. There's a well-known story of Jesus calming a storm that gives us a way of understanding our personal storms. Now, I don't want to overly spiritualize this story. This was a real live driving rains, howling winds, and rolling waves storm. This is not just a metaphorical, mythological, make-believe tale with a nice moral to it. Jesus really calmed a storm. And if we keep that in mind, I believe we can find some really helpful lessons for the storms in our own lives. Let's hear the story.
Then he got into the boat, and his disciples followed him. Suddenly a furious storm came upon the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, "Lord, save us. We're going to drown." He replied, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, "What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him."
There are two things in that story I wonder about. First, how did a storm blow up so suddenly that experienced fishermen like Jesus' disciples didn't see it coming? Dr. John Christie, the state climatologist, is a member of our church, and I asked him about this sudden storm on the Sea of Galilee. Dr. Christie explained that in the spring, when this event probably happened, the waters and the air in the Mediterranean world are warming up. And then every few years, a cold, high-pressure system from the northeast blows south, and as it tops Mount Hermon and the Golan Heights at the northern rim of Galilee, the air nosedives into that deep bowl of a valley called Galilee as it races toward the warmth and low pressure in the Mediterranean. The results of that quick, confounding climatological collision of pressure systems is a storm the likes of which even sirens wouldn't have had time to warn Jesus and his disciples. So, Jesus and his disciples were in this suddenly serious squall. Jesus, meanwhile, was asleep. And that's the second mystery. How could Jesus sleep through a storm? Mark 4 says he was in the stern, the back of the boat, sleeping on a cushion. And those boats were fairly small. That's a mystery. Here's another mystery of sleep. I once went to sleep in a dentist chair in Virginia with them working on my teeth. As hard as that is to believe, the hygienist thought it was crazy funny. And here's something as mysterious as Jesus asleep on a fishing boat in a storm. Some of our church members have been known to go to sleep with me preaching. That's a mystery too. So we simply know that Jesus was asleep. Now, with those mysteries solved, let's look at a couple of other questions, deeper questions from the story. Why would a storm blow up, even with good folks in the boat and with Jesus in there with them? One would think they'd be safe if they were traveling with the Master of the universe, right? And they were Jesus' friends after all. Wouldn't that friendship with Jesus keep them safe? Well, a lot of people think that way. You know, if you live right, God will bless and protect you. Lots of people thought that way in Jesus' day, too. But Jesus tried to correct that thinking. In one of Jesus' parables, for example, the parable of the two houses and the storm, the rains and the winds beat on both houses. One builder built his house on a rock, and another builder built his house on the sand. The difference was not in the storm. The difference was in the foundation. The storm pummeled both houses, the house of the foolish man and the house of the wise man. The point is that tragedies strike indiscriminately. Christ followers are not exempt. Our family was in Richmond, Virginia in 2003 and lived through Hurricane Isabel. Not long after Isabel blew through, our son Grant and I drove through the neighborhood. We noticed that on some streets there was a lot of damage. Other streets seemed untouched. Grant, then 11, asked, "Why did the hurricane destroy some places and not others?" I didn't have an answer. I don't know why storms destroy some houses and others nearby escape damage. I do know that storms blow even when Jesus is in the boat with good people. I know good and faithful people are not immune to suffering. Here's another mystery. Was asking Jesus to calm the storm the wrong prayer? The Bible says the disciples, the friends of Jesus, woke up Jesus and begged him to calm the storm. Jesus obliged and told the storm to knock it off. But that was apparently not his first choice. Think about it. Jesus' response to his friend's plea was, "What happened to your faith?" Did Jesus sigh when he said that? Did he say to himself, "They just don't get it"? Was he a little disappointed that they asked him to still the storm? Maybe. Leonard Sweet suggested, and I think he might be right, that the disciples missed a real opportunity. Sure, to see Jesus calm the storm must have been spectacular, but how wonderful would it have been to ask Jesus to help them ride the storm? Riding the storm would have been gnarly. In Hawaii, I stood on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean below, watching surfers, young, agile men who, when the waves grew to be far taller than themselves, they didn't pray for the storm to cease. They grabbed their surfboards. It's human nature to want to avoid storms, I know, but don't you imagine that often God's best blessings are for those who are willing to trust His power and grace in the storms and thus ride them out? You see what a difference it would make if you and I would not be so afraid of the storms? As examples, my financial investments are tanking. Well, let's see what I can learn and how God might do something really wonderful when I'm not so dependent on money. My job is phased out. Well, here's an opportunity for me to rethink my vocation and see if I can't combine my job and my life calling. My health is fading. Well, what will my new life look like? My heart is broken. How might God use my brokenness to help someone else? I don't mean to be unrealistic or callous. I understand that sometimes the storms are too devastating. Sometimes the pain is too deep. Sometimes the wound is too fresh. To say just ride the waves would be insensitive when, for example, you've lost a loved one or have a terminal diagnosis or have suffered some other agonizing event. We're going to talk about the really hard storms when I get back in a few minutes.
Surely your goodness and loving kindness will follow me all my life. Surely your goodness and loving kindness will follow me all my life. You are my shepherd, and I shall not want. Father. You'll never leave me. You never forsake me. You never forsake me. And you're a good Father. You'll never leave me. You never forsake me. You never forsake me. And you're a good Father. And you'll never leave me. You never forsake me. You never forsake me. And you're a good Father. And you'll never leave me. You never forsake me. You never forsake me. When you are my shepherd, I shall not want. When you are my shepherd, I shall not want.
Taylor Canuste is the chief meteorologist here at Way TV. And Taylor, we appreciate you letting us come into the studio today.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Travis's topic today is stormy weather.
Yes.
So a meteorologist is the perfect person.
I think so.
What made you get into meteorology?
Yeah, so I grew up in Nebraska, which is, part of classic Tornado Alley. So we had our constant storms. It would rain out my high school baseball games a lot. And it was a big part of our lives growing up in Nebraska. And eventually in high school, I thought, this is kind of interesting. What's going on here? Why are these storms happening so frequently? Why are they so violent? Eventually decided to pursue that in college at the University of Nebraska. And it's been a part of my life ever since.
And you've been here away for about a year now.
About a year. Started at the beginning of the year, yes.
And Taylor, you in your career, you've seen technology change.
Oh yeah, it's pretty amazing how much the science has grown just over the past 50 years from the 74 super outbreak to today. Back in that day and age, you would get an update on the radar. If you're lucky, I don't know, every 10 minutes or so. We're getting it every minute now. And we have more information in our smartphones than they had even back in the 80s. It's incredible just how much the technology has ramped up, especially over the past 10 years. Everything from the way we forecast now to the technology to track those active storms. I would say one of the biggest changes is the ability to forecast the potential for dangerous weather farther in advance. Back in the 70s and 80s, you may have an idea that there could be a bad storm on the day of the event, maybe the day before. But now we can look out a week in advance and have an idea that there potentially could be some severe weather or even tornadoes a week from now. That's pretty incredible that we can do that because, of a big scale of things, tornadoes are tiny compared to, these massive storms that develop. So the fact that we can actually pinpoint that that's a possibility, then that's a big deal.
And you had 3 Doppler radars here at Clay TV.
We do, yeah.
NSA.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so we have 3 of our own radars located at Crossroads Shoals, Decatur, and Guntersville. So we get a low-level look at these dangerous storms, and it's the lowest level of the storms that are most important with severe weather because that's where all the action is happening toward the ground. So the closer to the ground we can get a look at the radar, the better off we are. And some of the new technology that our radars have is the ability to not just see where it's raining, but also see what direction the wind is moving. And if you have wind moving in different directions very close to each other, that gives us a signal that there could be some rotation. And some of the newest technology shows us that we can actually pinpoint where there's debris being wafted in the air. So we're not just seeing the rain on the radar, but we have products that can pinpoint where there's debris being wafted in the air. If we see that signal, that confirms to us that there is an ongoing tornado. We're not just seeing the potential of the rotation. So a lot of advancements to help us keep everyone in North Alabama safe.
And that is so important
No,
because, we've all been close to tornadoes here or been through tornadoes.
Yeah.
So that's always a concern for people in the Tennessee Valley.
And it's more and more becoming a concern for us here. So yeah, the more technology we have at our hands, the better off we'll be.
Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
We've been talking about storms, life storms. Sometimes I'd suggest, instead of simply pleading with God to still our storms, we ought to ride them, to ask God what good can come from our storms, the difficulties that blow into life. But sometimes the storms are just too devastating. Sometimes the pain is too deep. Sometimes the wound is too fresh. To help us think about those uniquely difficult storms, I want to take you to the Adriatic Sea along the eastern coast of Italy, about 30 years after that storm on the Sea of Galilee. And I want you to hear two words of hope from that storm. Paul, the missionary, was a prisoner on a ship sailing to Rome. As with that sudden storm on the Sea of Galilee, suddenly a violent wind was blowing in from the north and the ship and its crew were in peril. Acts 27 tells the story. For 14 days and nights, the ship was almost helplessly driven by the gales. Much to the surprise of the crew, though they were shipwrecked, they all survived. Here are two words of hope from that story. First, your ship might be destroyed, but you won't be. Acts 27:22 quotes the words of Paul, "But now I urge you to keep up your courage, because not one of you will be lost, only the ship will be destroyed." Hope is the deep conviction that God is God, and because of my faith and His power, I'm going to be okay at the core of who I am, no matter what happens. Your ship might be destroyed, your job, your health, your marriage, but by God's grace, at the core of who you are, you will be okay. At the core of who you are, you will be okay, emotionally, spiritually okay. That's biblical hope. And here's a second word of hope from that storm on the Adriatic Sea. Morning's coming. Acts 27:29 reads, "Fearing that we would be dashed against the rocks, we dropped 4 anchors from the stern and prayed for daylight." The crew of Paul's ship did everything possible to keep the ship afloat, but there came a time when the best course of action was simply to drop the anchor, wait patiently, and pray for the calm that daylight would bring. So if you're hurting now, please know it's going to be better. Morning is coming. When you tremble at the thunder, remember that morning is coming. When your boat takes on water, remember that morning is coming. When you've done all you know to do and the storm is still raging, remember that morning is coming. Weeping may last for the night, says Psalm 30 verse 5, but morning is coming. And if your life is built on Jesus, you're going to be okay come morning. On Palm Sunday morning, 1994, a tornado hit Goshen United Methodist Church during their service. 20 worshipers were killed, including Hannah, the 4-year-old daughter of the pastor. Several months ago, I told that story here on TV Church. And that weekend at First Baptist Huntsville, we had in our worship service Reverend Kelly Clem, who was pastor of the Goshen United Methodist Church that day. Pastor Clem's husband, Dale, also a pastor, gave me a copy of a book he wrote about that terrible storm. It's a heartbreaking, heartwarming story of pain and hope. A couple of days after the storm, Dale walked into his backyard to survey the damage. Their big shed full of tools, mowers, and so on had been picked up by the tornado and twisted. A bicycle blown in from somewhere hung in the trees. The fence was gone. Their little girl's playground was gone. Their camper was gone. But there, right where Dale had left it, sat a little red wheelbarrow, sitting right where it was before the storm. With so much really big stuff gone with the wind, there sat that little wheelbarrow, inexplicably untouched by the storm. Before the tornado, the girls had enjoyed riding in that wheelbarrow with their daddy pushing them. There it sat, somehow untouched by the wind. That little wheelbarrow became a symbol for Dale Clem. It had survived the storm, and it became a tool in the cleanup that ensued. In the days after the storm, volunteers, many of them strangers, used that wheelbarrow to haul bricks and debris away from what used to be their church building. That wheelbarrow came to represent for Dale Clem, whose little girl Hannah had died in the storm, a resilient faith. a faith that would endure and carry those who were hurting and help rebuild. That wheelbarrow became a symbol of hope. Forgive my simplicity, but if the storm has blown into your life and left you reeling, there's a wheelbarrow somewhere. There is a way to pick up the pieces. If you're a person of faith, you must be a person of hope. The ship might sink, but you won't. And morning is coming.
Peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break at your name still. Call the sea to still, the raging me to still, every wave at your name. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, breathe, call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, oh, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, 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 'cause your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome.
We hope you're enjoying TV Church, and we have a request for you. Would you consider hosting a group of friends in your home to watch TV Church together? You could serve snacks or have people bring elements of a meal to eat together. You could gather and watch live at 10 a.m. Sunday mornings on Way TV, or you could record it on TV and watch it together anytime. You could watch together from your computer at tvchurch.online anytime. You don't have to be some kind of expert. You just need to like people. And on top of that, you can invite people you like. People you like who are not part of a church family. We at TV Church would provide you suggested discussion questions, so you could watch together, discuss what you've seen, and then maybe eat together. Or you could snack as you watch. There will be no obligation to First Baptist Church of Huntsville. We produce TV Church, but you don't have to be a part of us to host this in your home. This is just an effort to take the church with a capital C where people are. You could be a part of someone's significant, holistic, eternal transformation right there in your home. Would you be willing to consider being a host? Email Pastor Travis at travis@fbchsv.org. He will get you on the email list to receive discussion questions for the week. Would you consider that?